Group coaching session number 7. Thanks for joining with us. I know some of you are technically on summer break right now, but I know many of you, whether it says summer break or not, are quite busy. So we'll do our official disclaimer. We've gotten a little fancy today. This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number ED-ESE 15A 0015/0006 with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred. All right, so now that you're officially disclaimed, we'll jump in. We're going to talk today about some different ways that you can make things more engaging, more interactive for your students in that virtual learning environment. That was something that folks had requested in June for some of our July sessions. So we're going to do some of those this week, and then we'll do some different ones when we're together next week. I'm going to remind you where you can find some of those old sessions, and then we'll wrap up. As we're going through, if you have questions, the point of these group coaching sessions is to be much more casual. So feel free to unmute and ask your question, or if you feel more comfortable, put it in the chat box. But this is to be, our more casual time to get together and figure out how to do this virtual learning thing well. So let's look at our first tool we're going to go through, which is Vocaroo, which you've already kind of experienced. So when we did the disclaimer, instead of me reading it live, you heard a recording this time. And that recording was done in Vocaroo. So the nice thing with Vocaroo is, of course, it's totally free, as with it, all the different things that we've been sharing, but it's also just super, super easy. It doesn't matter what kind of device you or your students are using, it works on it. And there's not all these extra bells and whistles for people to be confused by. It records sound, the end. And it's pretty high quality sound. So the recording you heard, I feel like sounded pretty decent as far as sound quality. And I didn't use any type of microphone or anything special. I just talked right here at my computer, and that's the quality that it was able to get. It kind of already filters out some of your background noise. So I feel like it does a pretty good job with that. So basically you press this nifty red button. There's literally nothing else on the screen, so you really can't mess this up. You press it. Then when you're done, you press it again and you've got yourself a recording. So like for the recording that we used for the disclaimer, it was 31 seconds. I can listen to it to make sure that I like it, because maybe I messed up, maybe it sounds weird, I want to do it again. But as long as I like it, then I click here on save and share. And then it's going to give me these options. I can share it on various social media, I can message it to someone, I can email it, or the one that I think would be particularly handy with students is they can get this link. They can then send you that link, whether it be through Google Classroom, through Schoology, through email, however you're typically communicating with your students or plan to communicate with your students this year. They would be able to just send you that link, and then you can listen to it whenever. Those recordings will stay up and available at that link for you for 3 months. So they do go away eventually because it is a free site, but it's up for 3 months. Now, when you go to listen to it, it will look exactly like this as well, so that you then can either, get the link, or you may want to download it, because if you're wanting to if you're maybe using this as a means of language assessment and you're wanting to record progress, you may want to download their recordings and maybe save that to your computer or to your Google Drive to be able to show that assessment or that progress. They too can download it. So if they want to download it and use it in something else, they have that option. So with mine, I had my 31-second recording. I downloaded it. It downloaded it real easily as an MP3 file to my computer, and I was able to pop it into the presentation. They could pop it into their presentation. They could, again, pop that file over into Google Classroom, whatever you wanted them to do with it. but it's just super, super easy. And I do want to show you, I'm going to switch what I'm sharing here, just how simple the layout of this page is. So you can see on this page, literally there's nothing else on it. So I like that, particularly for younger students, that, you know, you're not seeing ads, you're not seeing anything else they could accidentally click on. There's a huge red button in the middle of the screen. You press the huge red button and record, and then you press the huge red button again and it stops your recording. So it's just super, super easy to be able to do those voice recordings. So that is our first super, super easy. We're starting out super easy for the day. So as we think about Vocaroo, anybody have questions? Anything you're wondering either about Vocaroo or this type of thing?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How long is the recording, how long can you record?
So according to their FAQs, there is no limit on the recording. Now, I did not test that. I only tried out a couple of like normal length recordings, but according to their FAQs, there is not a limit on how long they can make their recordings. So, I mean, your kids could literally be reading a book or singing a song, you know, even really long things. Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts on Vocaroo? All right, so we'll go to our next topic of fun. And remember, if you know, you're welcome to unmute and chat or over in the chat box, whatever is easier for you. So now we're going to get a little fancier. We like to start out and work our way up. So the next one we're going to look at is Seesaw. So I'm curious, you know, you can use, if you go over to your reactions and just kind of, or even in the chat box, and just put yes or no in the chat box, just to make it super easy. How many of you have tried Seesaw before? So if you want to go over to the chat box and just put yes or no, because we're a small group, so that'll be an easy enough way to look. I'm just kind of curious. All right, so it looks like most folks have not used this one. All right, well, it's another one that I like because it's pretty user-friendly. I also like it because it's free. So like with a lot of things, Seesaw has the free option that I honestly think for most of you will have all the features that you would need. But it does have paid options as well. So you can get a paid teacher account to unlock some additional options. And then you can also, if it was something you wanted to use for your entire program or for your entire school, there's a school option that you can pay and get some additional things with that. But I think you'll see, you know, for most of this, anything you're going to want to do in Seesaw, I think you're going to be able to accomplish with that free account. So when you go to the page, it's just a real simple page, and you'll notice it immediately tells you to sign up for free because they're not real heavy-handed with trying to get you to sign up for one of their additional ones. So it kind of has a couple of different parts to it, and I'm going to show you how they actually work. We'll walk through them like we normally do. But to give you an idea, the idea is to give students ways to really show their learning and in fun, engaging ways. So they're able to use lots of products, use lots of annotation, and it creates a digital portfolio of their work for them and for you. You're able to then interact with all of that. You're able to keep track of their digital portfolios, use those, and their families, if you choose to, can also access that. So if you choose to incorporate families into the Seesaw, then they can actually see their students' work as well. So you have a couple of different layers of options even within it. So let's go over and look at what it actually looks like. So we'll go back over to the internet here and head over to Seesaw. So I'm going to make us smaller so I can see everything on here. So this is what it would look like if you had a class in Seesaw. It's also nice because you can go in here and play with stuff before ever adding your kids. So you can always get in, mess around with things, and then it's all things that you can delete if you decide, I didn't know what I was doing and this looks crazy. So as you're looking at this, you'll see I've got my class that I called NAL. I made a little cute owl. I'm the teacher. This right here, where it says journal, activities, inbox, skills, and blog, those are your main things that you can do in Seesaw. So you'll notice I've got it in journal right now. We'll go through all of these. We will not really explore skills because skills is the one thing that you would have to upgrade to a paid account for. So we're not going to really fiddle with that today. But we'll go back to journal. So I entered my imaginary children. They already pre-populate one named sample. So I left sample and I added a few more. And you'll notice it kind of prompts you, particularly because it knows that you're just getting going, if you want to add students or if you want to add families. So let's say I have another student that I want to add. So I can paste in a whole list of student names, or I can add them one at a time. So let's say, wow, hit too many buttons and I'm adding all the students. So let's say I'm going to add Daisy from our class right here. So I do that and it'll give me a reminder of how students access this. So this is another one that's good, that no matter what types of devices you know that your students are going to be using, it's very user friendly to use on a tablet, on a phone, or on a computer. So it really is going to be workable with whatever they have available. And so when they open up this app.seesaw.me, they just pick, I'm a student, and it'll have the cute little pictures of kids there. And then they'll actually have a QR code that they can either scan or a code here they can use to log in. And particularly, specifically for remote learning, Seesaw has started a thing where they've given unique QR codes and unique codes like this to each student so that they can be logging in from home and just be themselves. Now, the other option is if you already have your students in a Google Classroom, then when you start your class, you can actually just import your entire Google Classroom. At that point, they don't even need the QR code or the class code. They would be able to just log in with the same information they use to log into Google Classroom. So you've got both options there. So if you're using Google Classroom, just import from there. It'll be super easy because they'll not need any new information. And if not, you just put them in uniquely and it'll give them the QR code and the code to log in. And it just makes sure that it's only your students who are in the class. You can also set it up to where the students in your class can see work that's being done, or the default setting when doing remote learning is that the students cannot see each other's work, just to maintain privacy. So you've got your list of kids now. You've enrolled your kids. So we've got all our kids, and you'll see some of them really have not been doing their learning assignments. But if they have, you'll see that they have, an item here. So I can click on that child, and it will just bring up whatever that child has done. And you can look at it and see, and we'll explore what the activities are. But that's one way to look at it. The other is, if I go to my full journal, you'll see up in this top part, I've got the little lines. I'm in that mode now. And that means that it's going to show me in chronological order. So whatever the last thing was that a kid submitted is at the top. And then you can scroll down to see more things that have been submitted. If instead I click on this little calendar, then you can click on a date and it will show you only the things that were submitted on that particular date. So if you had an assignment due on Wednesday the 22nd, you could click on Wednesday the 22nd and only see those assignments. So it gives you some options there. So that's your journal tab. Then if you go to activities, activities is where you would actually be giving assignments to students. So there are lots of different options. You can see here, you can look at the things that you've already assigned to your class that are public right now, things that are scheduled. So maybe you're setting things up in advance and next Tuesday I want this to go out, next Friday I want this to go out. So you can schedule those. And then archived, things that you've done in the past but that have now ended. So if I go back right now, I've got this one activity that's been assigned. And if you look at it, you'll notice it says 1 response, 0 waiting for approval, 0 drafts, 5 have not responded, because I have 6 kids in my imaginary class. So I know 1's responded. The waiting for approval is because you can set up each assignment whether you want it to show up in that journal automatically or whether you want to approve it before it shows up. Drafts just shows if kids are working on it but they haven't submitted it yet, so you at least know they've engaged. And then those who haven't done anything. So you've got all that information. If you click on it, then you'll see underneath all your kids. And so you'll be able to see, because we knew we had 1 who had responded, so we know only Camila has actually completed the assignment. And I could click and actually see her assignment right there. All right, our face is over my X button. Just use the arrow. All right, so let's look at what it looks like to add an activity though, because that's a big part of what you would do in here. So if you want to add an activity, so you hit add, you can post student work, because maybe someone who is not able to engage virtually online right now did the same assignment at home, but you want it to be in their digital portfolio, so you could actually upload it for them. And that way they're still able to engage the same way. And then when we're all back in person together, they'll be at the same place as everyone else in this portfolio system. But we're going to assign an activity. So let's go to activity. All right, and you'll see here's some activities that I have available that I've already looked at and decided I might want to use. But if I don't want to start from scratch or use one of the ones I've already got here, I can always go to community. And there's a whole library of potential activities. You can search by grade level, you can search by subject, and then because most of our activities we're going to want to be doing in language, all of these are customizable. So really, it's just a matter of, okay, if I'm a 4th grade class and I'm working on math, here's some different activities that might be appropriate. And then once I pick it, there's 3 dots down at the bottom. So you can look at their whole activity. Perimeter, yeah, we're working on perimeter. So if I want them to put their perimeter inside each of these shapes and submit it. Okay, that works. So I click these 3 dots down at the bottom to be able to share it, or I click the heart at the top and it'll just automatically put it in your library, which I think is super easy. So you see it says save to my library, or I can go ahead and assign it to my class. Well, I don't really want to do that because I want to make some edits. So I'm going to go back to my library. And I've got my perimeter activity now. So I'm going to go in here and you'll see I want to assign it, let's see, to this class. And that's going to give it directly to them. So students can sign in and respond to this activity now. Or now that it's actually in my thing, I can click this and I can edit my activity. So maybe I want to change perimeter to the word for perimeter. Maybe I want to put the directions either entirely in language, or maybe I want it dual. Maybe I want to put it in both English and native language so that they have both. I can add voice instructions. So if I want the students to be able to hear me actually saying the directions, I can do that. I can add an example if I want them to see what a completed product would look like. You'll see there's a template attached because the assignment was that we want them to put that perimeter on that template, so they need it to be able to write on. So if there's anything like that where there's a picture or a worksheet or a diagram that you want students to work on, you can attach that template. So let's say that I've changed all this and made big changes, big changes, and then save it. Then it would be updated, and I could then assign it to my class or schedule it out. Now you'll see scheduling it out is one of the specific things that's part of the premium. You can create all these activities in advance and assign them as needed. All right, so let's go back to my class because I got lots of activities now. So I want to go down to my alphabet activity. So this is one I stole from someone. And you'll see they've got like these little icons. So that's something that you can use in any of your different things. So let me show you how you can do that. So particularly for your younger learners who maybe are not able to read all the directions just yet, or particularly maybe aren't able to read all the directions in language just yet, you have the option to use some icons. And let me find my beginning of year one. Here I used a lot of these icons. So they have a whole menu of icons that you can include so that students know, you know, I want you to take a picture. I want you to type your name. And all of these icons are going to actually align with the buttons that the kids would push on their screen. And then you can always give them their directions verbally as well. So you've got it written, you're using the icons to help them find it on their screen, and then you can play the instructions so they can hear it. So there's lots of options there. So you have that. Now that you've assigned some activities, I want you to see what it looks like when a student actually does one of your activities. So for example, we saw the alphabet activity. So if your students are learning the alphabet and you want them to practice saying the letters of the alphabet, then you can actually give them an image of the alphabet and then have them practice doing the alphabet for you. So you can hear them and you can be able to see, you know, are they getting the pronunciation right? Do we need to make corrections or work on certain letters? So like here, Camila put in her alphabet. So I can actually listen. A, B, C. I'm not going to make you do the whole alphabet. But so I could listen to her whole alphabet. And then I can like it. I can make comments so that she can see, and I could say, you know, you did a great job on the alphabet, but let's practice on the Inye. And maybe that's something that we need to practice a bit more on. So you have some options there as far as what, you know, how you can give some feedback right in the assignment that they did. Now these other buttons at the bottom, this is a paid feature to be able to integrate skills. This folder is if you wanted to create folders for your class, which as you do more assignments, you're gonna wanna start making some folders to be able to keep everything organized of assignments. So you can add things there. The globe would be if I wanna publish it to my blog, and I'll show you what that feature is momentarily. And then the 3 dots here, you could see I can delete it. So, you know, if a student puts something up and maybe they're now embarrassed, or maybe it just isn't applicable, or you want them to redo it, you can always delete it. You can edit the item. You can edit the people who have access, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit more in a minute. Edit folders, date, you could copy it, and you can also share it. So you could even specifically share it with their parents so they could see how they're doing. things like that, and print it if it's something you wanted printed out to be able to document. So you have some options there. You can even, so like in this example, let's say the student is showing you how they've been working on their multi-digit addition. So they submitted what was in blue, and you notice they made a mistake not carrying over. And I know we do math all kinds of different ways, but for my example, I had to go with a way I know how to do. So you went in, and by clicking this button that says edit item, you could actually go in a different color font and show them what you were talking about. Or you could have made a comment and asked them to edit it and make the correction in a different color font. So they have lots of options that way. You can have them do, one of the ideas that's been really popular is to use this as a beginning of the year introduction so your students can meet each other. So you can have them create something like this where they use a picture of themselves, their name, maybe tell you, their siblings, their pets, their favorite animal. And then, particularly for students who maybe have been in your program, this isn't their first year, you could then have them also do it in language to the best of their abilities, using the vocabulary words that are accessible to them. So they could introduce themselves both ways. So let me show you what it looks like from the student end, or if you were creating a post of your own. So we're going to go to one of our things here. Let's go to, can do, just post some student work in general. Okay, so I want to show you more of the features that are in. So when the student goes to do their work, they can use these tools. They can take a photo, they can do a drawing, they can make a video, they can upload something, they can write you a note, or they can submit a link. So maybe they're submitting a link to a Vocaroo, or they're submitting a link to something else. So they've got lots of options. The one where I did the math, that was a drawing. The one that was an introduction, that was actually a photo. So if we pick photo, it automatically brings you up on screen. So you can use their photo taker, and the kids can just take a photo that will hopefully make them look less crazy than I look in mine. And then it gives them options for what they can do now. So they can add text and then move that around on the screen. It gives them options. The 3 dots are always for options. So they can be changing, different things about how it looks, the different fonts, all kinds of things there. Take it off if they don't like it anymore. They can add a voice recording, so they could actually do a verbal introduction to go with their picture. And then like to add those things like the picture of the sibling or the picture of the favorite animal, they could take another picture right there, or take a video right there in their screen, or they can upload it and it will pull up and ask them to upload things. So those are the kind of the basic ones. The other thing you can do though is, again, you got more buttons. So you can add shapes. So you saw like I had a heart next to my favorite animal, and there's all kinds of different shapes they can add. Then you've also got where they can change the background. You could ask them to make the background their favorite color, or whatever works for your particular assignment. But if they're doing a beginning of the year getting to know you. And then they've got these tools down here at the bottom. So when we look at the tools at the bottom, you'll see this is just where I can move things around. So I can rearrange the stuff on my screen. I've got my pencil where I can write, and my color selector is always over here. I've got my pen, my highlighter, and then this one's kind of fun. It's like a neon highlighter thing, so they can, really get festive. And then for when they decide that really did not pan out, they can just erase it and make it better. So there's lots of different things they can do in here. They can add a whole nother page. So, you know, you can make this as complex and they can make it as complex as you would like them to, but there's lots of different options. So I'm going to trash this because I can't imagine what I would use that for. And go back and show you a couple of other things here. So they can do the drawing. And the nice thing about the drawing too is, let's say they're doing that math problem again. And so they're showing you how they're thinking. Well, they can also record their voice and actually talk through the problem so you can hear their thought process, which I think could be really helpful, particularly with something like this where you're trying to figure out, you know, why it might not be working out.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So this is all recorded, so it's not really live interaction. I can't talk to the student while we're working on the problem.
Yeah, so this is something that they would record and you would then respond after they record it. It's not live.
Is there some kind of feature with Seesaw that is live interaction?
Seesaw doesn't have live interaction.
Okay, so this would be after our lesson, say we're doing live lesson with them, and then they would go back on their own to use Seesaw.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so like if your lesson was on, you know, multi-digit addition, you've delivered your lesson and then maybe you ask them to come here and, you know, talk through their thought process on 2 specific problems and they record it and then submit it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you wanted to do something that would look very similar to this but would be live, you can do that in Zoom.
Oh.
Yeah, they have, I'll even show you right quick because that's the joy of the more casual session. So in Zoom, they have let me find the whiteboard here. If you go to share screen when you're in Zoom, one of the options is whiteboard, and I'll pull it up, and this is what it looks like. And so they could do the same thing here, where you could even set up the problem. And then they can come in as a participant. And this is an option you can toggle on and off. Because if you're doing a different type of activity, you don't necessarily want your kids to be able to write on the screen. But you can turn on and off their ability to annotate on the screen. So you can turn it on and then they can come in and you can tell them, you know, I want you to do this in a different color. So let's see, I'm going to write in pink. And they would come in and say, okay, so this is how I would do it. And do it right on the screen live. So you could get that same kind of activity, but live, and then have them do something else on their own using something like Seesaw.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have trouble finding the whiteboard or how to turn off on and off annotation, let me know and I'm happy to help. All right, let me find Seesaw again. There we go. So lots of things you can do here with that where they can draw. The video is another one that's pretty simple. I mean, basically they're just gonna click that they want to start recording. And then if it's red, I'm recording, which I feel like is pretty noticeable. And then once it's done, my head is over it again. There we go. Now I've got my recording and they can actually go in and even on their recording, very similar to how the other was set up, they can add text, they can add additional audio, they can input some pictures and things, they can add writing onto their actual video. And then once it's done, they click that green check and that saves it. And same thing here as well, where they can add another page, but only in the paid account. So, you know, there are a few limitations. One thing just to think about is that if you want to be able to do some of the paid features, you can look into that. That would be something that you could use supply money for, as long as that's within your budget and within your scope. If you're not sure, you can reach out to your program officer and they'll be able to let you know. But that would be something to, you know, just think about if you're wanting to be able to do some of those other pieces and parts. All right, we've already seen how the upload works. That's pretty easy. So I'll show you the note. It basically creates a little piece of notebook paper for them, and they can just type you a little note. And then when they're done with their note, they save it. They can add a voice recording or edit it, but if they're good with how it is, then they just save it as is. Now for me, because I'm in there as the teacher, I have to select which student. So Daisy, I'm going to say you just wrote me that nonsensical note. As a student, they're not going to have to pick that though. This would be if I'm as the teacher inputting something for them. Or maybe if we were actually in person, I might be doing this side by side with them. So now you'll see the latest thing in my report is this nonsensical note. So that just kind of gives you a real brief overview of activities and how that would interact with students being able to submit different things. The other thing I want to show you under add is that you can send announcements. So you can see I don't have any family members signed up, but I could send it to all my students. Any type of announcement. I can even add an attachment. So if I had like a letter or a picture or any additional information, I can add that there, send it out, and all my kids would get notification that there's an announcement. And you can see I'd already set up an announcement as well. If you connect family members with this, they do have to log in using the same way that their kids would, but you can send out family announcements. So if you think that your families would be willing to sign up, this could be a way that you could keep communication going with them. You can share some of their students' assignments with them. You can send out announcements to them, and you can also private message them. So you can have, you know, private communication similar to how you would in email, but through the Seesaw. The other option, if you're thinking, my families probably are not going to take the time to sign up for specific accounts, I don't know that that would be ideal for my families. You can also set up a blog. With the blog, basically you would choose what to put on there. So you could choose to highlight, you know, specific student work. You could choose to post certain announcements and put it on the blog piece. And then you can set it either to, I've got mine right now set to general public. So if anybody has this link, they can see my blog. But you can also set it to password protected, where anybody with the link and the password are able to see your blog. So you could provide each family with the password and then they can get into it that way. But this is what that would look like. You pick exactly what you want on there. You can put calendar events on there. So particularly if you don't maybe have a school website or don't have easy access to post things there, this might be a way to do that in a secure environment because you can password protect it. So just another option. So let's go back to our classroom here. So that takes you through your journal, which is just everything that's being submitted to you, all either in calendar or scrolling view, or you can select by student. Then you've got your activities. You can go through your current activities, scheduled or archived, or then add a new activity. And then your inbox for announcements, messages, anything like that. Students can send you messages. Skipping skills, because that's a paid feature. And then the blog that we talked about. So I know that was super rapid, but just, you know, it's just a real quick overview of what you can do utilizing Seesaw. Any questions? Because I know that was very quick. All right. So let's jump back in and we'll look at our last item, which is Flipgrid. So kind of curious about the same thing. So if you'll use the chat box again to share, have you ever tried out Flipgrid? Oh, and a question about Seesaw. Do students have to sign up or we make it available for them? They don't have to sign up because you would make it available to them. You signing up makes it ready for them. Once you sign up, you select whether to import your Google Classroom, if that exists, in which case they just sign in and out the same way they do to Google Classroom. Or if you're using it without Google Classroom, it's still super easy. You set it up with your students and you give them their QR code or login code, and you can set their, those login codes, and then they get into it that way. But yeah, they don't have to sign up for any account. They don't have to be providing any external information, nothing like that. All right, so it looks like only Lisa has tried out Flipgrid before. So another one that's pretty new. So for Flipgrid, this is a Microsoft product, and I call it educational TikTok. They do not bill it as that. That is not how they describe it, but to me and to the students that I know, it's educational TikTok. So it's another one that's free, super easy to use. You go to their webpage for Flipgrid and just click sign up. And this is what it looks like just in general, just to kind of give you an idea of the different things that kids can do with this and get really creative. Now, I do find Flipgrid is a little bit more designed for your upper elementary and up. I think it's just a little bit more advanced than Seesaw. I think Seesaw for even your earliest learners is very accessible. And not that your earliest learners couldn't use Flipgrid, but they're going to need a little bit more assistance learning how. I would say second to third grade and up, most of those students are a little bit more accustomed to using technology, and they're probably not going to have any difficulty using Flipgrid. So let's go see the educational TikTok. So we're going to go over to my fake Flipgrid. All right, so on my fake Flipgrid, you'll see once you've created one, then you have the ability to add grids. So I had created a grid that was public and one that was by student ID. So let me show you what it looks like when you want to add a grid. So first off, I have to name it. So you may be setting up one for your class in general, your entire fourth grade class, or you might be setting it up for language arts, 7th grade, group 1, language arts, 7th grade, group 2. Just think about how you want to name them so kids make sure they're in the right grid and where you want them to be. Now, you can have students participate one of 3 ways. They can use a Microsoft or Google school email. So basically, if you're using Google Classroom, you can go this route and then they just sign in again with those same credentials. You can do student ID, and I'll show you that one. It's super easy. And then educator learning community. I would not use educator learning community with students. I would only use that if you're going to use it like for your professional learning community or families. So this is more of an adult setting. And then create a flip code. It's going to pre-populate one for you, but you can pick something else. So if you wanted, let's see. It's already telling me it's not available. All right. How do you know, computer? Well, let me do. There we go. So you can try out different ones and kind of create your own, or you can just let it pick one for you. So if I'm going to do student ID, if you're not going to use the Google School email, you're going to go the student ID route. I'm pretty sure I clicked. What did I not do? Oh, I didn't give it a name. My other fake class. Okay, so you can just upload a file, or if you don't have a ton of students, you can just add them this way. So if we're going to, since Lisa's used this before, I would not put your students' last names. That's just my personal preference. You can or you can't. I just tend not to. So I would just use last initial. You have to put something in that box though, or it won't let you keep going. So first, last name. The student ID doesn't have to be their student ID in whatever system you have at the school, because whatever you use as the student ID is what they have to use to log in. So you want each one to have something different so they're not logging in as each other, but you don't want it to be very difficult. It only has to be 2 digits. It can be letters, it can be numbers. So, I mean, you could literally just run them off, 0, 1, add the next one, 0, 2. So you can make that as complicated or not, because I mean, you can really get carried away and, make them a really fancy one. Whatever works for you, but whatever you make as this student ID, that's what they're going to use to log in. That's how it makes sure of, who's who. All right, and then it's going to say, make sure that this is right. You can print their QR code because they can use that. Then, I don't really want to print it. They can use this to then log into Flipgrid. Okay, so just another thing that you can provide them with to help them log in. But okay, I'm going to launch my grid. There we go. There's the direct link to it. Now, even if you give them this direct link, so let's say you take this and you use the share to Google Classroom button, they're still going to need to know that code if that's how you set it up. Now, if you set it up using their Google, then they'll just use their Google. But it just depends on how you set that up. But that's your link, so that's how they would go to it. And this is what it defaults to looking like. So I can add what they call a co-pilot. Now this is actually a feature that's available in Seesaw and in Flipgrid. I know many of you team teach or you work with a teaching partner. You can add a second teacher in either of these products, no additional cost, and they would have all the same access you would. So you don't have to worry about, we all have to have this one login and we all have to remember it. No, you can literally set it up as a team teaching team. So in Flipgrid, you can only have, let me show you, co-pilots that have a Flipgrid account. So make sure that they sign up for a Flipgrid account and then just put in whatever email and invite them. To my knowledge, there's not a certain number of co-pilot limit. On Seesaw, on the free account, you can only have one other co-teacher. On paid accounts, you can have more than one co-teacher, but on the free, you can still have one co-teacher. So just a nice option there. You'll see I can edit my grid. So I could change my name. I can change any of that information we already set up. I can make it to where kids can't download their videos if I don't want them to be able to do that. I can change this background to be something, more festive. And you'll see I've got this student view where I can see what my kids have been doing, or my topic view where I can see what's happening by topic. Now I'm going to go to one of the other ones that I already kind of put some fake stuff into. So let's go to my fake student class here. So you'll see here, they always give you this one, you can delete that, but I made an actual topic. So if I go to that Flipgrid, It was an activity that I copied because just like with Seesaw, they have a library of things that you can take and borrow and then make your own, or you can start from scratch. So I borrowed this activity about Guess Who. And I told people, okay, use the pixel filter, which I'll show you what that is. Share 3 things about you, and we're going to guess who you are. So another fun beginning of the year, trying to build that community since we'll be in this virtual learning environment. And you'll see we had student A who responded. And so I can come in and I can watch student A's video. Do you know who I am? Here's the first thing about me. Okay, we're not going to watch my whole dorky video, but you can see the student's video that they've posted. And then I set this one up. Again, I'll show you how to do this, but I set it up with a grading rubric. So my students knew that they could get up to 10 points for including the 3 details about themselves. Well, this person did that, so okay, they get 10. Did they speak clearly? We'll give them 8 on that. Did they use their native language? So you can say you want them to do it entirely in language or as much as they're able to with their accessible vocabulary. I happen to know this person did not do that, so they get no points. And then you can make detailed feedback. Only the student is going to be able to see this. So you can share this information with them. And then you can even copy the link or email it to share it directly to them. But once you save this, they've got it. Okay, so I can put all my feedback, and you'll notice it says feedback saved, so we're good. The other thing that's just fun, and this is more of that TikTok vibe, is you can see I had already gone in and I left a vibe for my student. I put in that they did a great job. So does anybody have any current Flipgrid questions?
So it looks like you can start a topic and they can respond to you by video. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. And as soon as this turns back on, I'll show you how they can respond to you by video. But yeah, you can start whatever topic. You can give them just like a written topic, or you can actually record one of your own videos and have them then respond with their video. So it's almost like a video conversation back and forth. You can also turn on and off the feature for them to be able to comment on each other's videos. So, you know, depending upon your group, you can choose to have them do that. Then the other thing you can do, you can also moderate. So if you're not sure if your students are quite ready for that, you can turn on where you get to see the comments before the students can. So that's an option too. But yes, they can do all the video pieces. They can also edit their videos, so they can do it in chunks. So they can make fairly long ones, or you can set a limit. Like if you don't want them to make a super long video, you can actually limit how long of a video they're allowed to record in response to your topic. And then
it's all video. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So it's all video. There's no written really component to it other than maybe like a caption or something like that.
Yeah, the only part would be like a caption or anything that they would put in the comments.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this one, that's why I like to call it the educational TikTok, because yeah, unlike Seesaw that has lots of options for them to do more written pieces, this is very much video oriented.
Would be good.
The other component is that I don't know about a lot of the communities, but in our community, we've got a lot of the grandparents that are watching the children. And grandparents who are not familiar with technology at all. I mean, a cell phone is technology to them.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
So this is a huge undertaking.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, that's just going to be, I think, a reality and part of the start of the school year for all of us as we think about, you know, how do you train the students? How do you train the families? And try to set some of that up from the get-go to then make things smoother. All right, so I think we've got not everybody back, but at least a good few. And we're recording, so we'll be able to splice it back together with the other.
I need permission.
Why
Are you recording? Okay.
Why do you want permission? I'll give.
If you're recording, it's fine.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to show you this last little bit because we're a couple of minutes over due to our technical difficulties, but I want you to see what it actually looks like when they make a video. What are the options they have available to them? So, okay. So here it is. So like I said, I put a rubric on this. You don't have to do that though. You know, if it's not something you want to put a rubric on, or it's just not something that needs one, that not necessary. So let me get out of here and I want to show you what it's actually like to make the video. So let me go. I'm going to go to my NAL one. I say hello on Flipgrid. And you'll see that there's this video. I'm a student recording my beginning of the year video. But you'll notice like I have this weird coloring, there's like writing on it, there's stickers, because those are all things that your kids can do. So let's record a response. And you'll see this one has been set to be a 1 minute and 30-second video recording, like it has a limit. Again, you can set what those limits are. But it's got this little like magic ball, which is filters. So your kids, you know, again, very TikTok-y style, can put different filters on themselves, including the one that we saw in the Guess Who activity where they can go into witness protection. Let's go back to no filter. They can put the writing up there so they can pick whatever that would be and do some writing that way. They can go back right there and see what's my assignment. Oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay. And get that back off. There we go. They can add an emoji. So, you know, they have different emoji sets and they can pick those to add to them. They can write on the screen and paint on the screen. One that's a little bit more educational to use is they can actually do a whiteboard. And so, again, they can be doing something on the whiteboard here and actually recording that. And then the last option is they can upload things to add to their video, kind of like a sticker. So it's definitely very video oriented versus text oriented, but does give them a lot of options. It's definitely something that's going to be a little bit more fun because it does feel very similar to an academic TikTok. Once they're done, they can always choose to download it as well, unless you've turned off that feature. And then as they're looking at each other's, so like when we looked at the one that I had made, you'll notice that they can actually provide feedback to one another as long as you've left that on. And then what I was attempting to show you when it freaked out, so hopefully it won't, is that as a teacher, you can leave what they call a vibe. So all the feedback that you give kids other than that is private to them. So if they're maybe doing a project presentation through this, you can give them feedback solely to them. But if you want to leave some public feedback, you could say, great job. And then it actually shows up at the top of their video as public feedback from you. And they call those vibes because then it sounds cooler. So this is another one where, you know, you can use activities that other people have come up with and then customize them and tweak them, or you can create them all on your own. But the basic idea being that you're giving them some sort of topic and then asking them to respond, whether it be just a short thing or a long thing. And so the last thing I'll show you is that if I click on this pencil, then I'm going, oh, sorry, not the pencil. If I'm clicking in here, I can also change and like export everything that they've been doing. So if that's something that you need, you know, for documentation or just because it's getting a little much, you can always do that. You can also make these inactive. So if you don't want them showing up to your students anymore, you can share them with other teachers. You can connect classes within your school so that you're not sharing with the public in general, but if you just want to share between classes at your own program, that can be fun. And when you're creating your topic, it does give you, you know, a good bit of options as far as adding a title. You can then give them a more detailed prompt, the recording time and moderation, because personally, I don't know that I would want, you know, videos until the kids are more used to it to go public. And by public, I mean just where their classmates can see it without me seeing them first. And then you can also blend in things like, you know, maybe a YouTube video or a Vimeo video, a video from you, you know, a picture. You can blend in all kinds of things to then create your topic. So it gives you lots of integration options too. So let me come back here. So those are the ones that we're looking at today. So that's the Vocaroo, which is the just all audio recording. The Seesaw, which is where the students kind of are creating a digital portfolio, and they can do text, they can do video, they can do audio, they can do on-screen annotation. So they could even do like an on-screen labeling or worksheet type thing. A lot more diverse options of what they can engage with in Seesaw. And then the last one being the Flipgrid, which is very video focused, but definitely a fun way to be able to do some interaction with students and be able to hear them, particularly if you're trying to assess any type of pronunciation, speaking, pick up a vocabulary, those types of things. So I will send y'all a follow-up email with links to those. You can always just, if you put in their title into Google, that's literally the first thing that comes up, but I'll also send you their direct links. And then the last thing I was going to show you is for anyone who has not looked yet, just a reminder that if you want to see any of the previous sessions, since this is session 7, or any of our previous full-length webinars, you could go to the resource database, or if you really want just the super simplest way, you can go to our playlist on YouTube that has all of our sessions archived. So you can see session 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Looks like maybe session 6 has dropped to the bottom. I'll move it back up to the top. That was the last one we did about video recordings for teachers, staff, whoever. So you can always go and watch those right there. So I'll send you the direct link to that as well. And then the final reminder, just if you have questions after this, if you're starting to use these and you think of other questions, let me know. We can always hop on a Zoom and look at something, or the phone and look at something, or we can email back and forth. So, you know, you can get help outside of just these group coaching times if you have questions, or even if it's not one of the specific tools we've talked about, if you're trying to figure out how to do something with your class and you want some ideas, feel free to reach out. That's what we're here for. I'll stick around for any questions, but we are a little bit over time. So those of you who need to hop, next week, we're going to be potentially moving our session. I'm actually waiting to get final feedback on that. We had some folks who asked if we could move it to Wednesday instead of Thursday. It would be the exact same time, that we do it, 4 Eastern, 3 Central, 2 Mountain, 1 Pacific, high noon in Alaska, but on Wednesday instead of Thursday. So as soon as I hear back from the department, either this afternoon or in the morning, I will let y'all know. So we'll either be next Wednesday or next Thursday, same time. And next week, we're going to be specifically looking at ways to integrate online games into your instruction. So yeah, we're getting fancy. And like I said, if you think of other questions or you have anything you want help with, just let me know. And then have great rest of your Thursday.